Okay, as we saw in the last video, we're going to ask her to stay in there with the door open, and we're going to gradually move ourselves away. Now, the next stage we're going to do, once the dog is LAYing within about 5 seconds of you doing the exercise, then we're going to start making it more challenging by adding more time on top of that. So once she LAYs for 5 seconds, we're going to wait 5 seconds before we take a knee and give her the come command. I would have you do 5 seconds both, so each person that's in the house should do the same iteration. Once everybody's done that iteration, then we go to 10 seconds, 20 seconds. And if I go from 10 seconds to 20 seconds and at 15 seconds she gets up, then that means I'm going to back up and practice the 10 seconds, a couple more repetitions. I generally like to see a 5 for 5. I like to see the dog perform it properly 5 times in a row before I move on to the next stage. Now, at this stage, what we're going to ask her to do is to practice being in the kennel, and you can see she's completely calm. She's actually focused. She's not anxious. She's not whining because the door's open and I'm right here. So we're going to ask her to wait in there for progressively longer and longer periods of time. Each dog's timetable is unique, but the one commonality is once we can get the dog to stay in here for 2 hours, anything beyond 2 hours is fine. Now, as a rule of thumb, you do not want your dog to be in the kennel for longer than, I didn't tell her to stay, so she's allowed to come out. You don't want your dog to stay in the kennel for longer than 5 hours. It will create stress in your dog. Sit. So arrange a dog walker or doggy daycare as you're doing. And this little sidebar, the guardian's already doing this, but if you're watching from home, when you're doing this exercise, you cannot put your dog in there, close the door, and leave. It will take away the work. It'll make it take a lot longer. So while you're doing this process, take your dog to doggy daycare when you go to work, or take your dog with you, or have somebody arrange at your house. So while you're doing this exercise, I am not forced in here at all. Okay, so once we get to the point where we're up to, I would suggest about 20 minutes, but you might have to go longer depending on how intense the dog's separation anxiety is. I'm doing this with the door open. Next stage is to repeat the whole process, but as soon as she lies down, I'm going to close the door. Now, I'm not latching it. I'm just closing it. Now, yours will wobble open because of what she's done in the past. We would wait for her to SIT. When she does, I would shift away. When she LAYs, first time, I'm going to open the door and let her out immediately. Then I'm going to start adding time again. And I go through the same process up to 20 minutes. Then the third stage is to do the same thing again, but this time when you close it, you actually latch it. And again, go up to 20 minutes. Now at this point, she's gotten 3 different stages of up to 20 minutes of relaxation in the kennel. The next stage is to put her in the kennel, leave the door open, and as you walk away, you're going to walk towards the door. Now the door to the bedroom is right behind the camera. So eventually we're going to walk out and we're going to walk around the corner just like I showed you in the stay exercise, just for 1 second, then come back there and stand there. And only do this once she's laid down. Now when you go out of the room, she's probably going to stand up, but she'll probably stay in there. So that's why we just move for 1 second and come back around. If you're doing this in concert with teaching the dog to stay, you have some carryover that will benefit you with both exercises. And eventually we want to get to the point where we can stay out of sight for up to 20 minutes with the door open. Then we repeat the process with the door closed but not latched. Then we repeat the process with the door closed and latched. And then we're going to eventually start moving into the house instead of just right outside the hallway. You might put a chair right outside the hallway. Now make sure she can't see you. And don't be munching on something so she can hear that you're there. She'll know you're there because she knows the layout of the house. But because she's comfortable and we practice, she's able to stay relaxed. Eventually, you're going to do this where you put her in here and you're going to go outside, close the door, and then come right back in and then come in here immediately. Now, if she's whimpering or whining, never let her out when she's whimpering or whining. But the first time you leave, you have a security system. Mm-hmm. You're going to hear the beep bells and all the beeps that happen with security. She knows what those mean. So when you go outside, close the door, let the beep, and then come right back in and go in. So it's just a fraction of a second. Now, she, at that point, probably be a little bit more animated, breathing heavy. Wait for her to relax and be settled before you let her out. So if you gradually, methodically go at this, after a while, you're going out the door, and then you can actually start your car. Now, your car is probably far enough away she can't hear it, but you're just going to increase the amount of time of her outside the house. Now, again, this is one of those times where having a doggy camera or security camera helps invaluably. So if you can sit inside in your car or just sit right outside and watch on your iPad, and then if she starts panicking, you know how long you've been at it, and you're like, okay, well, that was at 17 minutes, she freaked out, so we need to keep on practicing at 15 minutes. So this is the conclusion of how we can teach our dog to be calm in the kennel.